Okay, so what Plasma Oculation, Enes's passive skill, does is it increases her skill critical hit rate based on her max MP, and then you get 6.5% of that. So I have 400 almost max MP, so I'd get like almost a 20% extra crit rate from that. And then when you hit an enemy, you have a 100% chance, as long as you crit, to trigger Dark Current, which is it heals your MP when you get it at a 5% chance to get 5% back of your MP. And Dark Current is basically the AoE effect when you hit an enemy, and it can hit at max 3 monsters per monster that gets inflicted with it. So it's like a cascading effect. So what Snare Hunter is it can have a maximum of 2 stacks, and then you want to try to get your cooldown to be below or at your duration, so you don't feel like it has any downtime, so it doesn't feel bad to play. And then it's a projectile, so it does basically your skill power times 300% or whatever modifier you have. And then Thunder Snare, that's the center of the ring. So if you press, let me get here real quick. Thunder Snare is the center of the ring. It is almost like quadruple as fast as the outer ring. So the center of it is what does the most damage. You want to try to shoot bosses or whatever you're trying to do with the center of the ring, not the outside of the ring. And then short circuit, so when you press it, your movement speed gets buffed by 50%. You can't feel it because I am already max capped, so I think it just increases the FOV a little bit, so it looks like I'm going faster with it. And then it does conductor, the thing that your thing does when inflicting conductor. It basically does the MP heal and custom resource thing. So what discharge does is it basically has a huge modifier for your skill power, and it has a base range of 20 meters times 6 meters, so that's the range. And then you can increase it by up to 200%, and then it has extra additional damage by a huge modifier too if you inflict conductor on it first. So like if he already has it on it, but if I do this, I inflict conductor on him, the red thing, and then I do this again. I press my 3 conductor, it'll do this. That 2 million damage there does pretty insane damage. So what lightning conductor does is when you press it within 35 meters, you can only the range is the only thing that's capped. It's not the target increase amount. So you're capped at basically 100% increase in your range, so you can double it. So you go from 15 meters to 30 meters, and then the target count increase, you can increase that by 50%, so however much range you have. And then what that does is when I press it, it does 700 damage there, and then does an additional damage if it has conductor on it, or the debuff that all her skills do. So it is a pretty good skill. So what Chain Lightning does is it basically has a movement speed of 10,000. I'm assuming you can increase that with skill speed modifier, or Arche acceleration, and then it basically increases your max bounces by however much range you have, 40% each, so it's unlimited, so however much range you want to put on it. This used to be the bossing thing. I think they nerfed this too when they nerfed Ines, but it still does a decent chunk of damage. See, doing 120,000 with my build. And that happens 10 times for me, so 120,000. This hit 10 times, so that is like 1.3 million or so. It's a pretty good skill start. So what Plasma Ball does is it generates 3 little orbs around Ines. They absorb damage, and the amount of damage they absorb is based on your HP times your MP, and you get and then divide that by 6.1%. So you get 6.1% of whatever your HP is times your max MP, and then it takes 100% of your defense, 100% of your attribute resistance, and it refreshes every 8.3 seconds. So it's basically turns Ines into a tank. And what you want to build this for is HP, defense, and cooldown, because the faster it refreshes, the more it absorbs damage if you get them taken away instantly. So this is how you build her if you want to build her into a tank. I wouldn't. I don't see when you'd ever do that, but it's a fun little concept. So what Time of the Hunting Hounds does is it changes your chain lightning and discharge to go from singular to tech. So you can take advantage of, since usually you want to make this as best as you can, the Snare Hunter, so it would change that to tech, and then it could utilize the Tingling Mechanics Reactor better, because you'd want to go for tech for the Snare Hunter. So it basically changes the animation of Snare Acrobatics to go from the punch to it basically does a little explodey thing and deals damage twice. And then Floating Lightning, it basically gets its movement speed halved, and it has a 50% extra max bounce. So you need 60% instead of 40%. So you have less max bounces, your movement speed is halved for the speed of the projectile. So it's pretty good. It could probably be increased with the range module or Arche acceleration. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. So the reason why we're using the modules we're using is so her crit rate is increased based on your MP. So we're going crit focused, and then we need her Snare Hunter to have a equal or lower cooldown than her duration. So you have a infinite uptime. You don't need to. It doesn't feel clunky to use. So you would use Focus on Electric, that's 6%. Focus on Tech is 6%, and then Nimble Fingers MP conversion. That's a lot. And then you need skill cooldown and skill duration max on a reactor, mechanics reactor. And then you're gonna need this node inside of Arche tuning. So we're just going for skill crit damage, skill crit rate, and then range right here. So the range is capped on Snare Hunter at 200%. So we just need one range module because base is 100% range. So we're good. And then movement speed. Let's go over movement speed. So on cores, you can have sprint speed 3 times, and the sprint speed cap is 62%. So with two 18% cores and one 19% core with these nodes will be enough to cap you at max movement speed of 1300. So you don't have to rely on her Snare Hunter to get the 50% buff. We're just using HP so we don't die. So that's how that works. And then you want a Slayer set for basically it gives a 26% additive boost to your damage. So it is insane after all of the things. After all your skill power and stuff is calculated, it just adds a 60 or 26% extra damage on top. So for external components, you just want to have max MP that boosts your crit rate. So it is just the only one you need. You don't need anything else. You could get HP and MP, all those MP substats if you want. It's really good. And then, so we are using Time of the Hunting Hounds because Enes's Secret Garden also has a unique ability. It buffs your skill power when you use it, when you use singular skills. So you get up to a 15% extra boost in your skill power. So it's basically the best stat stick in the game if you're a tech, and even if you're not, it has an insane sprint speed boost because it has 3 cores that can have sprint speed on it. So that is my Ines build. Let me show you it in action. So when you use Ines, you have to hit some enemies that'll charge your custom resource, and then you can press your Z on the floor, and that does a giant AoE of range to kill all the enemies. And then you just like zoom through the mission with the sprint boost. If you activate the automatic sprinting in your settings, you don't have to manually sprint every time. And this is just such a fun character to play. Okay, thank you for watching. Please leave a like or comment if this helped. Let me know if you want me to do any builds. Goodbye.